So we need to talk about what happened on last week's episode.
Yes, we do. We need people to know that you did not fall asleep in my activation.
I did not fall asleep.
Absolutely not. It was far more exciting, far more amazing situation than that.
So if you saw last week's good news episode, or even if you didn't, I'm just going to give you a brief recap of when JoAnn was doing her activation meditation at the end. I went deep. I went very deep. And I lost my awareness of being here. I don't know how else to say that. Like I typically when I meditate, or I've had some hypnopompic experiences when I'm waking up or when I'm going to sleep, where I know I'm in bed or I know I'm in my house, but I'm also here and I can see myself, or I'm in a tree, I've gone back to my childhood home and had interactions, but there's always a part of me that sees me. And I really left. I don't have a recollection. I don't know the time frame because time doesn't really exist. So there's a part of me that had no awareness that this was going on. And so when JoAnn ended, I was not here. And after the videos, the end of the video you saw last week, there was silence, and then JoAnn said, "And it is done." Because that's what you said, right? Because you didn't say that on the original video. I'm not sure if
I ended my activation differently than I usually do. I usually say, "And it is done." By the power of three, it is done. It is done. Well, I felt like maybe that stopped people in their tracks a little bit too quickly.
Well,
and so
it's what did stop me in my tracks and bring me back to reality. And so by not saying it, I don't know, maybe
you just, yeah. And so when I finally figured out I could do something, that's when I said, "It is done."
And so when JoAnn said that, I did open my eyes. And so that's important for us to know, because that is a trigger for me to come back. It's almost like a hypnosis, right?
Yes.
You count back and say this, you'll wake up, right? It's very much that for me. JoAnn and I have been doing meditation together, or activations together, conversations together for well over a year now, almost weekly. So I think I'm just like, I go into a trance with you now because it's been so much, and I have so much trust and faith, just to free fall with you, that I go somewhere, right? So I did open my eyes when you said that, and yet I wasn't back. So that got me to, oh crap. I couldn't see anything in the room. I saw JoAnn's face, and I was trying to figure out where I was, what's going on. It's like that foggy. And so I saw JoAnn, and I think the first thing I said was, "Don't leave me." And then I was trying to feel my body, and it felt like I could feel my heart in my lungs, and I felt like I was full of water. And so I actually spit up. I don't know how else to say that. I kind of go off camera, grab a bag that was laying on the floor, thank God, and released some fluid into it, because I felt like I had water in my lungs. And then I felt like I had water in my ears, and I was doing that. Actually, before that happened, I asked you to help me to come back. And so JoAnn had to do some of her own work, and I did feel her presence just kind of come, and she wrapped her arms around me from behind and kind of just lifted me back into myself. I don't know how else the fuck to talk about this. I know this sounds crazy to some people. I'll tell you, this has never happened to me before. I'm not doing drugs. I'm not.
And it's probably the new norm, by the way,
For us.
for everybody,
Oh,
not just for us. So it's not crazy. It's not crazy. This is the real deal.
so so then I had a lot of physical symptoms and I was spitting up and I was just having, it was just very, and so we just stayed on for a while until JoAnn realized I was grounded and all back in one piece. And what I want to tell you, the experience I had was that wherever I was, it was total blackness, total bliss. I feel like I want to say I was awareness. I just was aware that I felt, I mean, and there's no word, right? So it was just, there was no gravity. I felt free and weightless and just fluid. But there was, so I felt like I was just conscious awareness, or just awareness, I'll say. And then at some point, there was a light that started to filter, and I realized I was underwater when the light came. And then I saw that I was a giant sea turtle. I know we've probably lost half the audience at this point, but I was to say that
They're lost. They're lost.
I mean, I was very large, and these were like flippers. They weren't like, arms like what I see when turtles or walk on the land. So they were more the aquatic, but it was very large. I was like very large, and I started moving towards that light that was being filtered. And when I came out of the water onto the land is when I heard JoAnn say, "And it is done." And so I think that's why I mean, the timing was crazy. And that's why I'm like, I'm in that space and all of a sudden I see JoAnn's face. I'm like, oh, but I realized I was on the computer with JoAnn, and I was starting, my mind was going, oh, fuck, so my ego was like, back. Thank you. So that was the experience.
And it was an amazing experience, because when you talk about being in that void, people have a fear of going into the depth of the darkness sometimes within them. I think that's, even if you're not a meditator, and well, if you're not a meditator at all and stuff, there are people who go to bed with the TV on.
Yeah.
Make sure they don't go within at all because it scares them. And to go deep into the void is how you get to the light. And that's what Marianne did. She went all the way into the void. And it didn't take long to feel the bliss of the void. And then the light came through. So it was an amazing experience. And as we sit here talking about it, I think about this huge turtle, and I think it is some of the Native American philosophies or myths that Mother Earth was built upon the back of a turtle. Yeah. So that also is very, very significant. And the water in the womb, she was in the womb of the energy of God. But she was in the arms of God, the energy of God. That's what God is the female, male principle, that energy. It's not someone outside of us. It's not a guy. It's not a girl. It's both. But it's an energy. And when you get into that energy, that's when you feel that bliss. That's when you lose all of this ego, all of this who I am. And there's great comfort in that. We're very close to that when we leave one world and go over to the other side. So another, just totally an aside is there is no death. You just go into something more beautiful than what you're leaving. But that's what Marianne was doing. And then she saw the light. She came upon back into the earth, but she's different. You don't come out of those experiences the same, do you, Marianne?
No, I can tell you that I was exhausted yesterday. So that happened on Tuesday. Today's Thursday that we're
Right.
recording this. So that happened on Tuesday. Wednesday, I was wiped out. Wiped out. And I had some other stuff I had to do that afternoon. And, I just kept going about my day, which I think is interesting in retrospect. And I didn't even tell Christine about it that day. I told her the next day, and I didn't really give her a lot of details, but still haven't, because we just haven't had time to do that. So it kind of is really sinking in more now. And I realized yesterday when I was in that exhausted state that was a big reason why.
Absolutely, because we have these experiences, but as we were talking about a few minutes ago, we are dealing with human bodies. Now, these bodies are becoming the light every single minute of every single day because of all the light that's coming in. But they haven't caught up with experiences like you had quite yet. Now, one day of being exhausted, not too shabby for that kind of an experience.
Well, I'm not sure what's going on yet today.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just saying, yeah,
you and I have been talking for a while before we started recording, and I'm definitely accessing a little bit more than I used to be able to.
absolutely. And as much light, you also have more of your light body within you now. Because of all the light coming in, because of your experience. And before I got on today, I'm really into these I am principles, and I said to myself, I am the wisdom and the words flowing into me that light the spark within others. Well, that's what we are. That's the I am. That's the Christ principle within us. And the more light we get, the more we get to do that. And the more experiences like you just had, the more wisdom that you have got. It's an amazing, amazing thing. And it's not as difficult as we want to make it. We're in a world where if it's a little bit more difficult, it means a little bit more. Well, bullshit. I like simple, and I've always felt like simple was how it was supposed to be.
I love that. That was beautiful.
Good.
Especially when you added the bullshit at the end.
It's time to be authentic and not worrying about what other people think.
Well, clearly, because me talking about this experience and then putting a recording out for anybody and everybody to look at is,
right. Yeah. And you know what? There are people waiting for this because in their contracts, they said, okay, I choose this for my wake-up call. Okay. So they may start it and think, what the hell? And they may get done with it and say, holy shit. Boy, I'm on a roll here with
your swearing.
Yeah.
I need to go back and talk a little bit about some process stuff, because I can tell you that throughout my life, my adult life, I would get to points, even when I wasn't practicing spiritual principles necessarily, I would get to points where I felt like I could leave my body, and I would stop myself because it frightened me. And I know that this was able to happen because I let go of my fear, and because I've spent the last 3 years now grounding myself in spiritual principles and uh, changing my thoughts, changing my ways, changing my words, working on it. I'm not anywhere near, you know, enlightened, but I that's critical to do this in my relationship with you, JoAnn. That for me, it's one of the reasons my soul incarnated was to learn about relationship. I'm a Libra. I got a stellium in my seventh house. If you're into astrology, I got a lot going on in the house of relationship. Libra's about, harmony and balance and relationship and love. And so part of my soul lesson is to trust and free fall in relationship and ascend through relationship. And so I believe that you have allowed this for me. You have been the catalyst with your wisdom and with your words. And there's probably some of you out there that incarnated to figure out how to do it by yourself, but I just want to point that out, that I recognize also that this was about complete unconditional trust. Because when I saw you, I said, help me come back. I didn't want to come back.
Right.
Because it felt so good. So if I was doing this by myself, I'm not sure I would have come back. And I don't know what that means.
Right. I hear you.
I don't know what that means, other than I needed to see you and say that to you for that to happen. And I needed to have this experience. I came here for this experience, so this was a huge up level for me.
Right. And I think it played a huge role in me too, because at first it scared me. I went back to my total three-dimensional self,
Yes, you did.
Yes. And so it was like, what do you mean you don't know what to do?
Yeah, because
when I did say, I don't know what to do. And then it's like, well, of course you do. That's why you're here. And so we do come in as catalysts for each other. And that's why, and grounding for each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's also why people who have near-death experiences, they talk about how they do not want to come back. But with them, usually a family member that has passed or an angel comes in and says, it's honestly not your time. You've had this experience for something that it'll let you offer on the planet. That you really need to go back at this time. So I hear you. That's almost like a near-death experience, to get that far into it, that you feel that much bliss that it's like, I'm just fine right here. Thank you.
Yeah. And so when I opened my eyes, I engaged my ego. The first thing was, I ain't coming back. That was my ego, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
But
right.
Yeah. So yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing time to be alive.
It is.
I just want everyone to wake up to this and know that there is so much magic right around us, that magic is the real. Mm-hmm. Magic is the real. The rest of this stuff is illusion that we came in to experience and rise above. Mm-hmm. And it's as simple as shining our light and allowing our authentic selves to come through. And there are so many people out there ready to help you do that.
And in order to shine our light, we have to step into the darkness.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Yes.
And you said something very, I think, important, that when I allowed myself to go into that darkness or that void where there is no light, you said it, I wrote it down. It didn't take long to feel the bliss.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what I didn't know. And I think that's the fear is, am I just going to be a lost soul, or, is something horrible going to happen? Or I've got those old, religious programs that, well, that's hell.
Yeah.
Burn,
Right.
or some awful punishment's going to happen if I go to the darkness, right?
Right.
But
Right.
what you
But
said,
in fact,
it
by
didn't.
acknowledging the darkness, we step into the light.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no one gets left behind. No one.
No one.
That is not what God is about. And we are all pieces of God. Why would that energy leave a piece of itself anywhere? Yeah. Yeah. We are loved beyond anything we can imagine.
Well, instead of pulling a card and doing an activation, is there something from the I Am book or the book?
Yeah. Let me just, the
You might.
I Am discourses. It's channeled material. Saint Germain is the one who comes through. The first edition of this was printed in 1935. But there's something so interesting in here that talks about the enormous energy of the two words I am. Because it says life in all its activities, everywhere manifest, is God in action. And when you say I am, you have placed God in action within your life. So you can see how it's not how we need to just simply pay more attention to our words. And I want to read this one thing. It said, this shows you the enormous power you have to qualify this mighty energy of God. And I tell you, beloved students, dynamite is less dangerous, for that would but liberate you from your body, while these thoughts sent forth ignorantly and ungoverned bind you upon the wheel of re-embodiment indefinitely. Wow. Yeah, so it brings to mind, I saw something where it showed the infinity symbol is kind of my little special symbol, but it showed the infinity symbol, which means it's never ending. And that's kind of how reincarnation can be. But now I've seen one with like a cobra's head coming out of the center, because it's time for us to go forward into a whole different situation. So this embodiment, time after time after time, we have done a lot of our growth on this planet. And the last 2,000 years, and it's been longer than that, but the last 2,000 years have been with a lot of purpose, because we knew everything changed now. And that the earth became a paradise and a peaceful place where all nations, all people got to be their authentic selves and live and make the Mother Earth happy that we are upon her, because she has suffered dearly for us. So that's a good ending, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's enough for today. That was a lot of good news. The good news is I'm back.
Yeah, that is good news. That is good news. I tell you what, now it wouldn't look very good for my activations if you just chose not to come back.
Or was falling asleep, right?
Or was falling asleep, either one.
All right. Well, until next week. Namaste.
Okay. Namaste.
I love you.
I love you too.